Here's how feminism messed up the US economy and how it's actually now come back to bite modern women in the butt. Let's rewind. The modern feminist movement kicked off in the 1960s. The goal was fair wages, equal opportunities, and legal protection. Great, right? They told us that the first wave gave us the right to vote, and the second wave brought us into the workforce. Here's where it gets a little bit sticky. During the second wave, the message shifted. It wasn't just, you can work outside the home. It became, you should. Or you must if you want to be respected. Doing nothing but staying home and cooking and cleaning and raising children, that was suddenly less than. So women flooded the workforce around this time. They were told they would get more financial freedom, more independence, and of course, more respect. But when millions of women started working full-time, it didn't just change individual families, it changed the entire economy. Suddenly, two incomes weren't just nice, they were expected, and that's where we get into the two-income trap. When both parents started working, the cost of living adjusted. Homes in good school districts, prices went up. Childcare, through the roof. Everything from health insurance to groceries inflated to match dual income spending power. So now we've created this world where it takes two full-time incomes to just be able to afford the same lifestyle one income covered in 1960. Feminism told women and even sold them the idea that they were breaking free. But for a lot of women, especially moms, it feels more like a trap. Because now the choice to stay home with your kids isn't even on the table for many families. So many women would love to be able to be homemakers and clean the house and cook and take care of their kids, and they can't. Because what used to be a respected and even honored role of homemaker, caregiver, mother got dismissed. Feminism lied to us and told us that success only looked like climbing the corporate ladder and competing with men. But we traded in something priceless: time with our children, peace in our own homes, and even financial flexibility. So while women were told you should do it all, what we ended up with is exhaustion, rising debt, and a system that only works if you're always working outside your house. The very movement that claimed to be liberating women made it nearly impossible to live on one income. And I'm sorry, but that is not empowering. Turns out that there's a real price to pay when a society stops valuing motherhood. When caregiving is treated as invisible labor and homemakers are seen as less than, everybody actually loses, especially women. Not just emotionally or in the family structure, we could talk about that forever, but economically as well. So no, I'm sorry, feminism didn't save women. It told us we need to do it all, and now our generation is paying the price for it.
One of the main reasons why the government was happy to embrace feminism is because women would bring in more tax. The more people we have who are working, the more tax the government will receive. So the government congratulated strong independent women to go into the workforce because it would make governments more richer and increase spending power. Unfortunately, it came with all the other consequences the woman in this video mentioned. Modern women spend most of their time complaining about trying to be more equal to men, but as soon as they get the equality they are asking for, they don't want it any longer.
You can say that again.
Okay, so this was reported in the UK news this week. Nearly 1 in 2 Britons, 47%, say women's equality has gone far enough. Similarly, around half, 47%, agree that we have gone so far in promoting women's equality that we are discriminating against men. I think there's a really big misconception that because the UK is quite a progressive country, that perhaps we've reached equality. So I've gathered some statistics about what it's like to be a woman right now here in the UK to show you that we have a really long way to go and that equality has definitely not gone far enough. Trigger warning, there will be some mention of men's violence against women, including domestic abuse and sexual assault. Starting in healthcare, we actually have the largest female health gap in the G20 and the 12th largest in the world here in the UK. Recent figures from the Fawcett Society show 60% of women in the UK believe their health issues are not taken seriously, with more than half of them having had negative experiences with a healthcare professional. We know that maternal death rates are the highest they have been in 20 years. This is for a variety of reasons, particularly lack of funding and lack of research into women's healthcare, and also things like bias. Now, when we add intersectionality into it, you can see that black So, do I think that women's equality has gone far enough? No, I don't. Honestly, all these statistics are just such a small proportion of inequality that women face here in the UK, and they're staggering. I definitely think the UK is becoming more polarised in terms of women's rights and women's liberation. So my advice is do your research, read up, be active, have a community. Fuck the patriarchy.
I'm glad 47% of people, in the UK at least, are starting to realise feminism has gone far enough to the point where they're oppressing men. All these feminists do is complain about anything they can find, to continue their barrage of complaints against men and the so-called patriarchy. A few years ago, feminists were literally complaining about the air conditioning and how it was making work office spaces too cold for women, and that men should turn it off, all in the name of equality. As long as any type of misfortune exists in the world in regards to women, feminists will continue to complain, like an annoying piece of toilet paper stuck at the bottom of our shoes.
That is unfortunate.
Real men of genius.